In its July inventory report, the USDA projected this year's calf crop would be 3% higher than last year's and 6% larger than 2015's. The agency's latest numbers looking at costs and returns for cow-calf producers indicate costs declined slightly in both 2016 and 2015. That was paired with reduced values of production for both years, however. Earlier this week, Nebraska Extension's Berger joined us to look ahead to 2018 and talk about what 2017 has been like for cow-calf producers.
So for cow-calf producers, 2017 has been surprisingly better than 2016. Obviously, in the late summer, fall 2016, we saw a tremendous market drop. Saw quite a bit of market recovery. There's been more strength in the cow-calf market in the last year than I think many people expected. And so actually calf prices this fall have been pretty favorable from a cow-calf standpoint.
What do you think the cost of production numbers have been like?
So cost of production, I would say, are probably trending pretty steady. We've seen maybe just a little uptick from a hay cost standpoint, especially in the western part of the state. Some of those dry conditions in midsummer have impacted hay prices, especially to the northwest part of the state, I would say. As we also look at just cow-calf cost of production, if we think about the three major drivers, first would be feed costs. In Nebraska, I would say summer grass has moderated just a little bit, but we still have the most expensive grass of anywhere in the United States on a cost per pair per month or cost per day basis. Labor and equipment would be the second big expense. That really hasn't changed very much. I would say we continue to see that being a challenge from a labor and equipment standpoint. Those tend to continue to creep up a little bit. And then the third one would be what I would call replacement cost or cow depreciation. We've seen that drop just a little bit this last year just because the cost of getting a bred female into the herd is less than it was in 2016, simply because the value of those bred heifers coming into the herd. So those have been the three big drivers in terms of things that are impacting unit cost of production.
Will that continue into 2018? I guess what's your projection for next year for those producers?
So my projection for next year, I think really get a handle on where you're at in your costs this year, looking at what your cost of production was for this year, then use that information to plan for next year. What are some things you can tweak or change? In terms of places where I think there may be some opportunity for people to look at how to address the cow cost. Of course, number one is feed. Thinking about, are there some ways to creatively utilize resources there, looking at cost per unit of energy, cost per unit of protein into the cow herd. Second, labor and equipment. This is one I think we honestly always have to wage war on. It's just amazing how that can start to get away from us from a cost per cow basis. A third one is cow depreciation issue. I really think is one where there's some opportunity. Thinking about what does it cost me to get a cow into the herd? Can I increase the value of cows leaving the herd, whether she's leaving as an open cow? Could I maybe sell her as a bred cow? And then thinking strategically, are there ways to get more production out of the cows I have? Not necessarily more pounds, but more calves. Can I figure out a way strategically to get another calf out of a cow, and that can can decrease my unit cost production.
Nebraska Extension has held a series of workshops this year, last year, about developing unit costs of productions. Are there some common threads or common questions that producers ask at those workshops?
So I really think it's just a challenge as we look at what the total overall costs are. I think some of the big things that jump out when we work with a unit cost production analysis, this cow depreciation expense is one that really jumps out. It can really be surprising, and I think the reason it's so surprising is you don't write a check for it. You don't get a bill in the mail that says cow depreciation. So it's kind of a hidden cost, but when you sit down and really look at what's happening, it can really be a big one that people aren't aware of, and one where I think there's really opportunity to have an impact.
What tools are out there to help producers evaluate and develop their own unit cost of production?
So if producers would like to go to the beef.unl.edu website, under the cattle productions tab, there's a livestock and market budgets there. And if they go to that section, they'll find a sample budget for Nebraska that they can go and compare their costs to. Again, this is a budget that includes all costs, includes labor and equipment, includes some opportunity cost on investment, includes feed, and also includes the vet expense. So all costs are included. When we look at all costs, somewhere around $950 from an economic standpoint on a cost per cow right now. When you get to a cost per pound of calf produced or cost per calf, we're looking at around $1,100. So you divide $1,100 by pounds of calf produced, and that gives us an economic cost, in my mind, of kind of where the average producer is in Nebraska. Obviously, not everybody's average, and so they got to figure out where they are and how they would compare.